All right, we hope Santa Claus is working overtime because we have our Christmas wish list. We're going to fold these things up. We're going to send them to the North Pole. What do Matt Kolsky and myself want for Christmas pertaining to the Golden State Warriors? A little fun on today's show.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Oh, what's the good word, everyone? And happy holidays to all you out there, the everydayers that tune into the show, that are subscribed to the show. And if you're not already, this is Locked On Warriors. Now's a great time to tell you to hit that button. Maybe the algorithm feeds the show to you, but you may as well be subscribed. It's free, and you never know. Maybe someday we take off like a jet plane and start throwing you guys some free prizes. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Credentials, myself, Charlie Walter, the host of the show, 95.7 The Game in San Francisco, formerly of CBS News Bay Area, that is KPIX in the Bay Area. Matt Kolsky spent many moons on the radio, the airwaves in San Francisco, downtown, KNBR, 95.7 The Game, just a rock's throw away from each other. He spent time hosting both those shows. On today's show, let's talk about a few things, Matt Kolsky. First of all, our Christmas wish list. Anything. Because obviously when you're writing to Santa Claus, you wanted the Playmobiles for years, then you wanted the PS3, then you wanted the list goes on and on. You wanted the Razor scooter, you wanted the tech deck dudes, the little skateboards. We all had our phases of wanting the toys, and sometimes it just doesn't happen. So these wishes, they're not going to happen, but they're things that we would like. We're also going to talk about the Lakers. That's the Christmas Day matchup for the Golden State Warriors. Who's in a better position, LA or Golden State? I mean, the records are just about identical, but moving forward, whose spot would you rather be in? We're going to embrace the debate. You can find the show wherever you get your audio podcasts and on YouTube. I think that's everything that we had to get out of the way. Let's get to the meat and potatoes, the fun stuff. Our Christmas wish list. Dear Santa, dear Chris, this year for Christmas, I'll give you the floor first. What would you like for Christmas?
I'm going to start with the most obvious thing, Warrior related. And that is,
you're going to take this a completely different route than I am. That's for sure.
I don't know. More than anything, I just want Steph and Draymond healthy.
Oh, yeah.
Give me good health in the new year for the Golden State Warriors. Because, look, there's a lot of ins and outs with this team. There's a lot of things that could happen. There's potential trades. There's other things I want, believe me. But none of it matters if Steph and Draymond aren't healthy in the new year. So let's just stay healthy. If it takes a game off here or there, fair enough. No big injuries for the big guys. That's my number one Christmas wish for the Warriors.
See, I'm going a little bit different than you. Mine is I want to get out the ghost of Christmas Past. Ooh. And I want him to visit Ebenezer Scrooge, and I want him to visit Steve Kerr, and I want him to visit Bob Myers, who's now on the set of ESPN, and I want him to visit all those guys. And I want the ghosts of Christmas Past to just change some things. Because, I mean, life's not bad for the Warriors right now. It could be a lot worse, right? I mean, you're somewhat in purgatory, but there are teams that are in hell. So it could be a lot worse out there than the Golden State Warriors. I mean, 20 teams would love 25, 23, whatever, would love to trade positions with you overall. But in terms of what this could have been, I mean, God, Kevin Durant, why did he have to go? And then forget just that, the draft picks that you had. I mean, the fact that you were set to be a championship contender, and sure, you didn't know. I mean, forget contender. The fact that you were set to win an NBA championship, and you had and I guess there was a years apart, right, without Clay, but you had the number 2 pick in the draft, and then you had lottery picks after that. Like, there are so many things, and it's easy to have on the goggles. It's easy to put on the rose-colored glasses. Hindsight's always 20/20, right, Kolsky? But God, it is hard to bridge a gap. They tried to do it, did the Warriors, with the timelines, the 2 timelines, and it hasn't worked out that way. But God, I mean, the only team in my lifetime that I feel like really bridged it, and you tell me if I'm wrong, were the San Antonio Spurs, where, they brought in a completely different core after Robinson and Bowen. They're gone. They bring in Manu, they bring in Parker, and then they almost got a round 3 bridging gaps with Kawhi. It didn't get to that point, but they won a lot of games in the regular season. But that's what I go back to all the time, man. Warriors could have been in such amazing position if just one thing went a little bit differently. Still not the worst thing in the world, but my Christmas wish, Santa, take me back. 2019, 2018, how things could have changed.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the number one thing I think you'd do different is the Wiseman.
LaMelo Ball's averaging 37 and 5 right now. 30.7 and 5.
Let me ask you something. Steve Kerr can't deal with how crazy Jonathan Kuminga is on the court. How do you think he'd handle LaMelo Ball? You think LaMelo Ball would be pulling up from 35 and still playing 35 minutes? Because I don't. I think LaMelo Ball should thank his lucky stars he didn't get drafted by the Golden State Warriors, because it wouldn't look like this. Now, the Warriors might have been in better position. It's probably still a better pick than Wiseman. But, I think looking at LaMelo, 5-6 years in, and saying, look at the stats, what if he was on the Warriors, is not – it wouldn't be like that.
It's more trading the pick, man. That's what I look back at. You're in position where you don't even need a young star to add to the mix. I mean, at the time you thought they did, right? I don't think many people thought the 21-22 team was going to win it. A Wiseman piece would have been huge if he panned out. But like looking back on it with the goggles on, it's so easy to say you cobble that pick together and you could have had a super team and things could look completely different. I mean,
I'm not sure you could have. It's easy to say, obviously, given what happened with Wiseman, trade the pick. I mean, what's the downside? Look, mistakes are going to be made in any sports franchise.
That was 5 years ago, though.
It was 5 years ago. It was 5 years ago,
and the Warriors are still running out the same core that they were in 21-22, a championship team, most of the same core.
Yeah, and I don't know who that would have been at the time. A lot of people on Twitter had ideas. I don't know that there were any great picks available or any great players available to acquire with that number 2 overall pick, because everybody knew it wasn't super. It's not like James Wiseman was Victor Wembanyama. You know what I mean?
Or Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah, that pick had value, obviously, but not crazy value. And I think the question going back that far is, would they have handled the Clay situation differently? And is there a better pick they could have made? Because I think LaMelo's interesting and obviously super talented. Tyrese Halliburton is the one that got away to me. And
that would have been a crazy pick, though, at number 2.
Well, but that's the thing. When I look back at stuff like this, I do my best to evaluate the process and not the results, right? Because James Wiseman was always a gamble, but he also looked like the best gamble given the Warriors roster and position at that time. In retrospect, they say, and even it was suggested at the time, that they had Halliburton ranked number 2 in the draft class. And my position is you got to have the strength of your convictions in those moments, right? Now, obviously, it seems crazy if you take Halliburton number 2 because of where he's mocked up and because of his apparent value at the time of the draft. But if you really believe that he's the second best player and you can't trade down to a place where you can get him, I think you got to have the strength of your convictions and take that player at that point. And that to me is if indeed they had him rated that high, that's the mistake to me. Because I remember having the conversations. I remember talking to furious Warrior fans when they picked James Wiseman. And look, anyone who thought Wiseman was going to be a bust was right. So, I had higher hopes and I was wrong on that one. But
I was just judging based off AAU and some Penny Hardaway ball.
I know.
He played 3 games at Memphis.
3 games. It was hard to know, right? I had higher hopes. It was hard to know. But I still remember people talking about trades that should be made with the number 2 pick, and most of them sounded to me the way the people sound now when they say trade Jonathan Kuminga for Giannis Antetokounmpo, which is to say it's imaginary. It was never a possibility. It was never realistic. So could you have traded number 2? Yeah. Would it have gotten you a star that would have you in a very different position right now? I'm not so sure. So, you're right. That revisionist history is fascinating, and there are 1,000 ways it could have gone, whether it's LaMelo, Halliburton, a trade. But yeah, that's the key mistake of the 2 timeline attempts is drafting James Wiseman.
I think the next topic is going to be fascinating as well, because I'm giving you the chance to really bring anyone into this team. And the Jokic, the Antetokounmpo, no, we're not doing anything like that. It's someone that at least may have a pulse someday of playing with the Golden State Warriors. I have a fascinating one that I obviously would love to see. I brought this up on the show before, but it's our Christmas wish list players edition. It continues on Locked On Warriors. Today's episode is brought to you by Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about you were paying for, or, twice? That definitely has happened to me. I had a few subscriptions I didn't even realize I was paying for. I got Netflix, Hulu, Fubo, everything. And the next thing you know, Rocket Money tells me it's so easy to track them down. It's like having a personal assistant for your financing. 3, 2, 1. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? It's definitely happened to me, and it can happen a lot, especially if you're into television and you have a bunch of those subscriptions. You lose track of what you have, what you need. You didn't even realize you were paying for it. But Rocket Money makes it easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money, it's a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. For me, I love the subscription tracker. I know what I'm paying for and what I am not. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Today's episode is also brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. One of the best things about the app, the closer you get to your first pitch, tip off, or to like a comedy or theater show. They have it all. The closer you get, the cheaper your tickets get. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets. You'll also get a panoramic view from your seat, and your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It is game time. Christmas wish list returns, this time in the form of players. Who would you want to bring in? And then there are some names on the table that are at least a little bit enticing. Zion Williamson right now, who could be realistic if the Warriors want to go out and get him. He's 24 and is one of the most fun players to watch in the game, at the very least. I mean, the thought of Curry and Zion on the floor together, not that you need to sell tickets, but it's a fun concept. The question is Zion going to be on the floor with Curry together when it matters? And the track record says not really, but he's 24. He's got a lot of time to figure this thing out. I just think you've seen enough at this point to where the last thing you want to do is be ballsy, but at the same time, maybe that's what the Warriors need. A gamble that pays off that no one else is thinking of, and maybe that's one that entices many. Jimmy Butler to you is exciting. To me, it's like, well, you got to give up Wiggins and other assets. I think Wiggins is damn good. You fix your problems, not some of your strengths. And Wiggins is, quite frankly, one of the team's strengths right now. So I'm looking at a big. The issue is I can't find a big. So here's what I'm going to say. For my Christmas wish list, Kevin Durant. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, but he's having a hell of a season. He can still score it. And for the sake of just like seeing it happen, I want to see it happen for that reason, just to see it happen. I know it makes no sense. I don't know if it would work out, I don't think it can happen. I don't think it deserves our time of day, but it is Christmas Eve. It's the holiday season, and we're getting ready for a game against the Lakers. So hypothetically, if I had one player that I could see in a Warriors uniform, it's unfinished business. I talked about it earlier. What could have been? I mean, who knows how many championships those guys could have won together? And you never know. We'll talk it into the universe. Santa, AD, bring him back to the Bay. He's like, hell no.
Me? I love KD.
No, Santa.
KD is probably
Santa.
the one who says hell no. I think Santa would like it too. Who didn't enjoy watching Steph Curry and, I mean, Rockets fans? Other than Rockets fans, everybody enjoyed Steph Curry and Kevin Durant together. So
Northern Ohio didn't. I promise you that much. Southern Ohio loved it.
That's fair enough. Cleveland probably also had some issues, but it's a small group. It was beautiful basketball. I have to say, I'm not sure Kevin Durant is interested in beautiful basketball anymore in that way. And
it's a Christmas miracle. He's back.
I'm fairly certain Draymond would have to be in that deal for Kevin to be interested.
And I don't think the Suns would want Draymond. That's the thing. Like,
no,
we've talked about it before. Draymond's value is such a strange topic because, I mean, an aging guy at 34, I'm not even going to call him a star at this point in the game, whether he is or not. I mean, that's up to what you consider, I guess, a star. He affects the game. He definitely impacts the game. Some days he's better than other. He's missed some games this year. Probably going to miss a lot more.
The thing about Draymond, really, I mean, look, his value, even when he was at his absolute peak, has always been kind of an eye of the beholder thing. And I think they're, even at his best, probably only half the teams in the league really wanted that kind of player. Now, those are winning teams that want that kind of player, but nevertheless, it's still only about half the league. Now, so much of his value to the Warriors
attached to 30.
That's right. And he's just, we see it when they play together at least 3 or 4 times a game. They just have a connection and a basketball understanding of each other that is unrivaled in the NBA right now. It's the best player-to-player connection. It truly sometimes looks like they are communicating telepathically. And he's not going to have that with any other player. He's just not. He's still going to be a savvy operator on offense. He always has been. He's still going to be one of the best defenders in the league. He always has been. But for him to have the type of value you'd want to get in return if you traded him, he's got to be playing with Steph Curry. So there's just really no path for moving Draymond Green. And I don't, even if there was, I don't think Steph would want that, right? At all the trouble that comes with Draymond, I'm fairly confident that Steph Curry believes it's worth it.
And he's on a team-friendly deal at this point, right? It's nothing crazy.
Reasonably, yeah. And if Steph Curry believes he's worth it, then he's worth it. I mean, that's what Steph Curry believes is gospel as far as the Golden State Warriors should be concerned. So I would love to see a reunion. And I do think Draymond and KD are on decent terms, but yeah, that one seems unlikely.
Probably far-fetched, but that the smoke's going to be brought up at some point this year. I'm going to be watching Windhorst and all those guys saying it's happening. Kevin Durant's coming back to the Bay, and
it depends
going to get a day out of it.
It depends what the Suns are looking like, right? I mean, it depends how the Suns are playing. It depends how healthy Booker and Beal are. There's a lot that's going to go into whether those rumors get ginned up. I've already seen the LeBron James rumors revived, and I don't think that's any more possible than Kevin Durant. So, we'll see what happens. To me, the most likely thing is still on the smaller side, and that's why every time we circle back to this, if you make me put a guy on my wish list that I want some level of realism, I'm going to put Miles Turner back on the table, man. It makes a lot of sense to me.
I mean, that's like having an opportunity to get the PS5 in 1999 and you settling with the Sega Dreamcast, man. I mean, Miles Turner, with all due respect, at Christmas wish list, I mean, we can ask for anything in the world. I just has to bring back Durant. He's scoring 40 right now in the last couple of games.
Don't sleep on the Dreamcast, my guy. You could
Dreamcast
burn
is nice, man.
you could burn your own games, remember? You could like burn a DVD of your own game for the Dreamcast.
Still to this day, the best gift I ever got was the 64. There was nothing like it. I think I got Tony Hawk and Mario 64 jumping through the paintings.
The original Mario 64 remains, like, for my money, the biggest
greatest game.
Yeah,
I could never beat it, dude. I put in the cheat code to get up to Yoshi, and I've seen how it ends, but I got to like 118 stars, and I couldn't get the 100 coins on Rainbow Road or on the Skyland with the pirate ship and whatever. You know,
well, you just didn't put in enough time.
Riding on the magic carpet. No, I worked hard, man. I worked hard. That clock episode got me too. Anyways, we're continuing the conversation. We'll tie a ribbon on this, and then we'll get into the Los Angeles Lakers and the Golden State Warriors on Christmas Day. Who's in the better spot now and later? The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. I love betting on which players will score a touchdown and how many points each team will score. It is thrilling. Not only can you bet on who will win the game, but FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points will each team score, and so much more. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Golden State Warriors and the Los Angeles Lakers, they're right next to each other in the standings, and they're going to be right next to each other in the standings for probably the majority of the next season, next few seasons. Who knows? They're both kind of in that purgatory. They're attached to expensive players, particularly the Lakers with 2. The Warriors, it's more like 3 or 4 that they're paying a lot right now. 3 to be exact. Let's get to this before we even discuss the game. Who's in the better position for the future? Lakers really hurt themselves with Westbrook. Warriors really hurt themselves with a few things. I think one of the big things was not getting rid of Paul and Klay Thompson at the deadline a season ago, or at least Klay Thompson, but they've made mistakes over the years. Can you point to the exact one? I mean, we agreed earlier, probably Wiseman. With the Lakers, it's like, it's a consensus. It was the Russell Westbrook signing. It didn't make any sense. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they've more or less gotten out from under that. But who's in a better position moving forward is a really interesting question. I mean, obviously, LeBron is older than Steph, so the end is probably sooner, although I should bite my tongue because who knows what that guy's capable of. But assuming that the future means a world without Steph Curry and LeBron James, it's really an interesting question. Anthony Davis is certainly the best of the rest of the players, right? I mean, between the two teams, if you take Steph and LeBron out, Anthony Davis is the best player. But he's also older than most of the Warriors' principals. And if they keep these young guys around, there's a decent amount of potential for like most of a starting lineup. If Wiggins will still be here. He's only just about to turn 30, I want to say. There's an argument to be made that the Warriors will have a scrappy collection of players that maybe can compete in the way that like the Brooklyn Nets did at times last year, right? Like that neither team is going to be a championship threat. I mean, hell, neither team's a championship threat right now. You know, it'll take major ads for that. But Anthony Davis with Dalton Connect as his sidekick, or a group of young guys that have all shown some flashes for the Warriors finally getting their moment. It's a really tough question. I think I'd rather be in the Warriors position, but then again, Anthony Davis is an MVP candidate if he's the #1 guy on your team. And the Lakers, I hate to say it, but they're always going to have a certain cachet that makes them a place the next big star is more likely to want to go. And that probably gives them a slight edge for me.
That's what I want to bring up, because things do change quickly, right? I mean, in 20 years, that's all it takes for a franchise to completely flip around to the point where it's the most valuable in the entire NBA in the Golden State Warriors. We haven't seen the franchise as valuable. It was fine, but it wasn't like this a long
Right.
time ago. It was not like this. So when Steph Curry does leave someday, how attractive of a spot is it going to be? I mean, I bring up the Christmas Day example because the Warriors now are a mainstay on Christmas. Good teams play on Christmas. They've been playing every season since pretty much 2010. You go back to it. But before 2010, it was like 85. Like between 85 and 2010, Warriors just didn't play on Christmas once, and they had a lot of duds in there. Not just duds, but teams without stars. I mean, it's like, oh, Dampier, Weatherspoon, like just you didn't have.
You don't need to like re-trigger older Warrior fans' trauma for this conversation. It's an interesting question, and make no mistake, Steph Curry is the straw that stirs the drink. Steph Curry is the guy that makes them play on Christmas. Certainly, even now, Steph Curry is the reason they're playing on Christmas, and LeBron James is probably the reason the Lakers are playing on Christmas. But the thing is, Lakers, Knicks, Celtics are always going to have the biggest natural draws. They just are. I mean, it's hard to imagine that ever changing. New York and LA are New York and LA, and the Celtics are kind of the defining franchise of. But even honestly, when the Celtics stink, the Knicks and Lakers are more likely to be on a Christmas Day situation, on a TNT night, even without being great, than the Boston Celtics are. So you'll never be New York or LA. And that applies not just to playing on Christmas and getting your TNT games. Well, I guess it'll be ESPN games moving forward, NBC games moving forward. That also applies to attracting free agents. What I will say is that after that New York and LA effect, the second most important thing is, are you a good franchise with good ownership? And I know there are Warrior fans that think Joe Lacob is an egomaniac. Find me a billionaire who's not. I know there are people that think Joe Lacob's ego has caused issues. I don't necessarily agree with that. But he wants to win, and he's committed to spending money to win. And that puts him in the upper echelon of owners right away. And if you have good ownership and a good front office and good coaching, like, you are better positioned to draw free agents. And look, the Bay Area is not, Charlotte. It's a nice place to live. I love it, certainly. So I think they're still in that high level mix, one of the top 8 or 10 teams that people would look at to go to. But if you really want to be top 3, 4, 5, it's going to involve finding that next star. And whether that is someone who's already on the roster, or somebody you're acquiring in a trade, or somebody you're drafting after a couple of tough years, which I think if you look historically at, dynastic runs, a couple tough years usually come along at the end of it. So we'll see. But as far as it goes, for my money, they're in as good shape as they can be without living in New York or LA.
Hey, Golden State Warriors right now, still in a great spot this season for the most part. Great spot, definitely a stretch. That's
still a good team.
They're a 7 seed right now. If the season were to end today, and the matchup with the Los Angeles Lakers on Christmas Day is an opportunity for the Warriors to hop back into the top 6 in the Western Conference, and then you get in the top 6, and anything can happen. And there's still so many moves that can be made. We bring up Zion Williamson's name earlier. I mean, you can go out there and get him if you want him.
I'll tell you what.
You enticed by Zion flying down the court?
I am. I mean, it's obviously got its pitfalls. We all know the injury situation, but it is intriguing and enticing. Yeah, but his value is pretty low right now, and the Knicks certainly don't need him. So, I don't know, man. 2 weeks ago, maybe not. Today, I'm having the conversation.
Hey, entertain everything. Why not? That's what we do on Locked On Warriors. It's free and available wherever you get your audio podcasts. Happy holidays to all that celebrate out there, and take it easy, folks.
Happy holidays.